Welcome to Larry's Library. This week we are taking a look at Fear Agent, the premier hardcover editions. I have volume 1 and 2, and I have some high-res scans from those, and we're going to take a look at them. If you're not familiar with this format, basically the premier editions of these Rick Remender books they're basically library editions. These are put out by Image, the two I have here. So the MSRP on both of these are $59.99. But as always, I like to say, don't be a chump. Don't pay that. Instead, get them from my favorite vendor, InStockTrades.com, where they have them right now, as the time of the shooting, for $34.79 each. Pretty good deal, because these are huge and beautiful volumes. The build quality on them are fantastic. Yeah, I can't recommend them enough. So volume 1 is 512 pages, while volume 2 is 520 pages. So the writer on nearly all of both volumes is Rick Remender, fan favorite writer, and I'm growing to love him more and more the more stuff I keep reading of his. Just fantastic, phenomenal writer. There are a few stories in the Tales of that were originally ran as backups that are not written by Remender. Hilary Barta writes several of those, and there are a few others as well. The art in these, there's several artists involved. Mainly we're getting the work of Tony Moore, Jerome Opeña, Mike Hawthorne, and others. And I'm not going to name all of them, but it's pretty good stuff. So this collects the entire Fear Agent run. This was a single issue series that came out, it ran from 2005 to 2011. There are 32 issues in total, and they're all in these two giant, beautiful hardcovers. So this is a decade-spanning tale. Really even further than that, because there is some time travel involved. So yeah, you could say it's even further than decades, but in human terms, it's decades long, this tale of a man named Heath Houston. And Heath Houston, well, he's, how did I describe it? Let's see, he's a rough and tumble truck driver from Texas, and his world is turned upside down. His world is essentially destroyed. His family, his life, and the entire planet, as he knew it, are destroyed by this terrible alien invasion. And from that point forward, his life is ruled by basically alcohol addiction and this overwhelming urge for revenge. And he gets it. But it doesn't turn out the way he expected, of course, because that never does. But yeah, he's a complicated character, really. He loves Mark Twain, so you have Samuel Clemens quotes throughout this entire saga, and that's done to great effect. It's pretty fun. So in this series, they take a lot of familiar sci-fi tropes, especially tropes from like Weird Tales and a lot of the EC titles and stuff even further back than that, like the old pulp magazines of the 30s and 40s. You see a lot of influences from that, and it takes these familiar tropes and it weaves it into a new story. And on the surface, it seems like this fun, kind of a hyper-violent, sort of a flashy story that's done in this tongue-in-cheek way. And that, in and of itself, would be enough. But Rick Remender's work here is, like I found with a lot of his past stuff that I've read, or at least past to me. I've not read his stuff in order necessarily, but anyway, is where you get a lot of depth that you don't expect. It sort of creeps up on you, you know. You go into this, you're not even looking for a whole lot of depth of characterization or any really deep, intriguing plots, but yet it happens. They are there, and they sort of sneak up on you and grab you. When you least expect it, you're getting some heartfelt moments and some deep, deep drama and stuff that makes you question your long-held beliefs even. I think I've said this before about his work, but it happens again and again. And, one of my pet peeves with a lot of these collected series, especially when they were originally single issues, as this was, is where you often have multiple artists. And that just takes me right out when you get used to a style that you love. And then all of a sudden, here comes a fill-in artist that's radically different and just ruins the experience for you. Well, I am happy to report in this one, even though there are multiple artists involved, the ones that Remender chose Well, they all fit the material. I think maybe one time I went, "Oh, I don't know about that," but otherwise, maybe one issue, and not even a full issue, just the backup story. I'm talking about the Tales of the Fear Agent, which was a backup where he let some other writers sometimes, and he wrote a few of them himself, but he let some other writers come in and take their crack at stories of Heath that took place between the main plot points of the chapters. But even in those, the choices that were made there as far as art, they all work. They all work for me. I mean, now my favorite in the whole thing is the Tony Moore stuff. I mean, it is really, really awesome. I'm becoming such a huge Tony Moore fan, and yeah, it's great. Now the Jerome Pena stuff is also really great. So even when we don't get the fantastic art of Tony Moore or Jerome Pena, we get some nice stuff. And it all works really well. I don't really have any complaints about this. If I had to, gun to head, if I had to really think of something about this collection and this story overall that I don't like, it would probably be how in book 2, you have the series wrap up and it ends. And it is a really good ending too. I think people are going to be satisfied with it if you don't know it. I'm certainly not going to spoil it here, but I love this ending. But at any rate, the book, the saga ends, and then you have more of the Tales of the Fear Agents. And I wish there would have been some kind of way to have a separate volume for all the Tales of, and then when you finish the entire thing, it could have just ended. So it's, yeah, so that is a minor criticism I could make. But I guess he wanted to get all of this in 2 volumes. He didn't want to break it up into 3. And that's the only way I think this could have worked otherwise, is you would have had maybe 3 skinnier volumes, and then one could have just been the Tales of Fear Agent. So yeah, I think he had a rough choice to make here, how to incorporate that backup material. And so this is how he landed with, you finish the story and then you have more Tales of when you get to book 2, which, you know, is not great, but it works. But probably the thing I love most about this is the sci-fi, the old school sci-fi aesthetic used throughout. The ship designs are awesome. It has a little mouth drawn on it, you know, which is reminiscent of the fighter planes from World War II, you know, where they would make like a shark teeth and that sort of thing on it. I mean, it's great. And speaking of that sci-fi, that old school sci-fi aesthetic, they have rocket packs in these, and the rocket packs they wear are so huge. They're and they're rough looking too. Like it almost looks like a trash can. You know, it's strapped on his back, you know, and propels him to. It's great. It's easier to show it than it is to describe it. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I love the ending. The plot just carries you along, and there are so many twists and turns. You're not going to predict it. You really are not. I mean, I didn't. There were several times you're going along there and you're like, oh shit, did that actually happen? And I've even had to go back and thumb back through and think, did I miss something? No, I didn't. That's what happened. Yeah, it's really good. There's a lot of good humor throughout it as well. But there is some devastating violence and sci-fi action throughout. And I was there for it. I love this so much. I wouldn't mind seeing more of it, but with that ending, there's really no way to continue it. You know, it does have a very conclusive and a very satisfying ending. So overall, this for me is 9 out of 10. I really don't have any complaints other than maybe how they formatted it, you know, with the spacing of the Tales of, but I don't have a good fix. I mean, I'm complaining about it, but I don't actually have a fix. So if you don't have a fix, then it's not much of a complaint, the way I look at it. So yeah, I love this. Let me know what you think about it. I know I'm late to this. This has been out for a long time, but I just now got around to getting myself a copy and reading it, and I really loved it. Tell me what you think about it if you've read it or if you're planning on reading it down in the comments, and I will take a look at that. I hope you enjoy taking a look at these and looking at this beautiful, beautiful high-res scans I made from the actual pages of the book. And I'll catch you next time. Subscribe if you haven't already, and give me a thumbs up if you like this kind of content. And I'll see you again.